Hello, students, and welcome to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I am, as always, Mr. Sandwich, and today I'm going to be reading Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre. This is by Carole, Boston, Weatherford, and Floyd Cooper, so let's check it out and see what we can learn. We're back, and this is Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre, again by Carole, Boston, Weatherford, and Floyd Cooper. Now, I first learned about this event, and I didn't realize it was a true event when I learned about it, but watching the Watchmen series on HBO, they incorporate this true event, this horrific event. This happened in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so let's find out exactly what happened and how it pertains to American history. Once upon a time near Tulsa, Oklahoma, prospectors struck it rich in the oil fields. The wealth created jobs, raised buildings, and attracted newcomers from far and wide seeking fortune and a fresh start. Once upon a time in Tulsa, there was a community called Greenwood. Its residents descended from Black Indians, from formerly enslaved people, and from exodusters who moved west in the late 1800s, fleeing the violence and racism of the segregated South. Once upon a time in Greenwood, there were some 10,000 people living in a 35 square block area. Train tracks divided the Black and white communities. Segregation laws called for separate neighborhoods, schools, phone booths, and railroad and streetcar coaches. Unfair tests made it hard for Blacks to register to vote, and laws barred marriages across racial lines. So many Black businesses cropped up along a 1-mile stretch of Greenwood Avenue that educator and business leader Booker T. Washington called the area the Negro Wall Street of America. The name later became Black Wall Street, and the community kept thriving. Once upon a time on Black Wall Street, there were dozens of restaurants and grocery stores. There were furriers, a pool hall, a bus system, and an auto shop. Nearly 200 businesses in all. There were also several libraries, a hospital, a post office, and a separate school system, where some Black children got a better education than whites. There were 2 Black-owned newspapers, the Tulsa Star and the Oklahoma Sun, and over 20 churches, and 15 Black doctors, including Dr. A.C. Jackson, the most able Black surgeon in the nation. On Detroit Avenue stood grand homes of doctors, lawyers, and prominent businessmen. Once upon a time in Greenwood, there were barbershops and beauty salons. Miss Mabel's Little Rose Beauty Salon boomed. On Thursdays, when maids who worked for white families got coiffed on their day off and strutted in style. Up and down Greenwood Avenue, the soda fountain at Williams Confectionery was the backdrop for scores of marriage proposals. And there was the luxurious Stratford Hotel, then the largest Black-owned hotel in the nation. Black guests were welcome there, even as they were barred from Tulsa's white hotels. Once upon a time in Greenwood, there were 2 movie theaters, including the 800-seat Black-owned Dreamland. There were even 6 privately owned airplanes. But in 1921, not everyone in Tulsa was pleased with these signs of Black wealth. Undeniable proof that African Americans could achieve just as much, if not more, than whites. All it took was an elevator ride. One 17-year-old white elevator operator accusing a 19-year-old Black shoeshine man of assault for simmering hatred to boil over. That's all it took for simmering hatred to boil over. So in 1921, let's see how this hatred boils over. With the accused man in jail, the white-owned Tulsa Tribune newspaper ran a headline prompting readers to nab him. Fearing the man would be lynched, killed by a mob before his trial, 30 armed black men rushed downtown to his rescue. At the jail, they faced off with 2,000 armed whites. On May 31st, 1921, one day after Memorial Day, a holiday honoring fallen soldiers, skirmishes between the two groups left 2 black men and 10 white men dead. But the worst was yet to come. Unable to get the jailed suspect, the white mob sparked rumors that the black community planned to attack. Unchecked and, in some cases, deputized by the police, the white mob stormed into Greenwood, looting and burning homes and businesses that blacks had saved and sacrificed to build. Threatening to shoot, the mob blocked firefighters from putting out the blazes. African American World War I veterans took up arms to defend their families and property, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Families fled with only what they could carry. Once upon a time in Greenwood, up to 300 black people, including Dr. Jackson, were killed. Hundreds more were injured. More than 8,000 people were left homeless. And hundreds of businesses and other establishments were reduced to ash. The police did nothing to protect the black community. When the National Guard arrived the next day, all that was left to do was put out fires and move thousands of black residents into camps outside of Tulsa. As their community lay in ruins, black residents had to carry passes to enter the city. In the days and weeks that followed, some black Tulsans left and never returned. Others stayed and rebuilt the Greenwood community, only to witness its decline in the 1960s. For decades, survivors did not speak of the terror. 75 years passed before lawmakers launched an investigation to uncover the painful truth about the worst racial attack in United States history. Police and city officials had plotted with the white mob to destroy the nation's wealthiest black community. Today, Tulsa's Reconciliation Park remembers victims of the 1921 massacre and recalls the role of African Americans in Oklahoma history. But the park is not just a bronze monument to the past. It is a place to realize the responsibility we all have to reject hatred and violence and to instead choose hope. There we go, and it gives us some background information here as well. Now, what do you think would have happened? How do you think American history would be different if there was no massacre on Black Wall Street? How might that have manifested and changed? Do you think Black Wall Street might have expanded and grown? And do you think Black Americans would have more equity in our current system of government and the economy? So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully you learned a little bit. You could tell me in the comments, have you heard of this before, the Tulsa Massacre? Is this new history to you? And how does it behoove us? How does it help modern day America to know this history? And maybe what's been lost in the past? Again, I never learned about this growing up. So why is that? And why is it important to know? How would history be different if this had never occurred? All right.